Well, I'm Mayor Philgood, and I'm talking with Prescott's new fire chief, Holger Durre. Hello, Chief Durre, and welcome to the city of Prescott.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.
I know you've been here for just a couple of weeks now, and I believe you moved from the Boulder, Colorado area. So how are you and your family settling in?
Yeah, so far so good. So I came down first. My son's still finishing school, and they'll follow at the end of May, beginning of June. But we've already narrowed it down to a few houses, and looking forward to making the transition in full. But so far, I've loved the community already, and have gotten a chance to enjoy all the outdoors and just great community feel. So it's been fun.
Well, I think that's probably a reflection on the fact that it is so attractive to live here, and a lot of people are dealing with the same challenges of being able to find housing and affordable housing and a good place to live. So I'm sure you'll be successful at that.
Yes.
I know you have many years of experience prior to coming here in the fire service. Can you tell us a little bit about your leadership and fire direction background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in 1995 on a hospital-based ambulance service in Fort Collins, Colorado, about an hour north of Denver. And that exposed me to emergency medical services, which, as you know, is one of our primary missions in the fire department. In 2000, I joined the fire department there, worked my way through the ranks, and spent time in almost all of the major portions of fire department operations, from prevention, hazardous materials, wildland, and then also in training, which was a really rewarding experience running our training academy there. And then in 2017, I had the opportunity to become the deputy chief in Boulder, taking care of administrative and support services there, which involved things like fleet finance, logistics. And that really, those two experiences helped round out, I would say, what makes me now the fire service leader that I am. I'm very big on community risk reduction. I believe in investing as much up front before an emergency ever happens as I do as far as how we respond to those emergencies in the community. And the other things that I really care about is investing into our people. They are, at the end of the day, the folks that see our residents and our citizens in their greatest time of need, and I want to make sure that I'm the kind of leader that has their back, gives them the resources that they need, and supports them, and also provides them a vision that they can rally with. The other thing is that I really believe that the fire department has an important and vital role to play in the community beyond emergency response. I believe in us being visible, and I want to be a leader that the community can see and is somebody that they can approach with anything related to fire, but also being a responsible part of the city management team is another really key aspect of my leadership style.
Well, can you tell us what attracted you to the opportunity to become the Prescott Fire Chief?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things. My mom and dad lived in the Phoenix area for quite a few years when I was going through college, and I used to drive the I-17 corridor on the way to Phoenix, and always knew that this was a beautiful part of the country and a beautiful part of the state. And having come from Boulder and having grown up on the Front Range of Colorado, there's so many similarities between Prescott and there, with one notable exception. And that exception is that the growth in Colorado is even more significant than it is here. And for my 10-year-old son and my wife, we were looking for a place that had more of a hometown feel. And we almost joked a little bit that, you know, how interesting that hometown is actually in the motto of the city. Yeah. And we were looking for a place that felt like home. And in those 3 weeks that you mentioned that I've been here, it's felt exactly the way that I felt back when I was growing up in Fort Collins. And that's something that really has attracted all of us. The outdoors, the community feel, people know each other, people care about each other. And that's something that we really were looking for. So.
Well, I find that to be probably the most common reaction to people that either visit here for the first time or fall in love with it and then decide to find that friendly hometown that they be able to relocate to. The similarities of being in a maybe a little bit smaller community but very close to a major metro area, yes. Having that connection with forest and wildfire concerns, all of those are just so applicable to leading our fire department here in Prescott. Of course, as you know, the last couple of years, our former chief, Dennis Light, led the fire department in becoming a nationally accredited department with the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. And I know you are part of an accreditation peer team with the Center for Public Safety Excellence.
I think in this context, the two things to really highlight for the community is continuous improvement. That's one of them. And while that's a buzzword, I really believe in the fact that accreditation makes us live up to industry best practices. And I think that's a really important thing. If we don't compare ourselves and push ourselves as an organization, then we fall behind very naturally. The other piece of this is credibility for the community. We have outside peer assessors that come in and compare us to those industry best practices. And within implementing those in the fire department, we really are able then to give the community the assurance that what we do is what we say we do, and that those two things match, and that the taxpayer gets the value out of our department that we're proposing. The other piece of this for the elected official is if I'm in front of you proposing a new concept, a new program, a new initiative, you know that I'm basing that on hard, good, solid data. And it's not just my opinion that I'm bringing in front of you. I'm bringing you options that are informed with those accreditation principles in mind as part. And I always say that while data is a very large part of the accreditation process, that I like to run a values-driven fire department, and data is a value. And that value has as much play as the other values that we would normally refer to. And I think that, again, gives you as the elected official some assurance that I'm basing my decisions on good, objective, and sound practices that will move us sustainably into the future.
Well, I've always publicly advocated that good public policy is based on evidence. Mm-hmm. So having evidence-based policy and decision-making, I think, is going to fit in very well with your expectations of our fire department, its current and future performance. Do you have any broader vision of where you hope to see our fire department in the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me start with the people. I've been here 3 weeks now, and I continue to pinch myself because I feel so fortunate as a fire chief to have taken over the department that Chief Light left me, and the previous chiefs as well. We have an extraordinarily talented, dedicated workforce, and that makes a lot of the other things that are part of my vision a little bit easier. But on the side of the workforce, let's talk about that a little bit. They're extremely hardworking, but as you know, we have to catch up to the community risk that we currently have and the community growth that we have. Response times, particularly out towards the airport, are starting to concern me. And the workload that our fire department has inherited is also somewhat concerning. And I need to make sure that that's balanced and that we're not burning folks out despite that dedication. The other component that obviously we need to talk about in a community like ours is wildfire risk. Wildfire risk is a part and a present piece of our department. As a matter of fact, if you ask me really what are the two most important things that our fire department delivers, it's emergency medical services with advanced life support and response and mitigation, prevention, and planning for wildfire events. And that is something we cannot do just as the fire department itself, which means I have to partner aggressively with other folks such as the forest around us, right, CAFMA next door, as well as the community. Polwick, our wildfire commission, they're fantastic at engaging neighborhoods, engaging HOAs to create defensible space. But I do think that we have a lot of ground to gain there. Obviously, with our long-standing tradition and history with wildfire response in this community, I think it's time for us as a community to look forward, to engage responsibly, and protect our community, because that wildfire risk will be a constant in the city of Prescott and the surrounding area for time immemorial, and we need to make sure that we're prepared and that we're doing the responsible things that our community expects us to do, because they look to the city and to the fire department as a leader in that area, and we expect to provide that leadership, and that's part of my vision.
I think we're quite fortunate to have our own airport here and be able to have air capability when we're dealing with wildland fire risks and actual response.
Yes.
So I think you and I have talked about how necessary it is for the city to start doing the groundwork to build a new fire station, so that we can have the response times in northern Prescott rather than having to deal with it after it becomes a real chronic problem. So acquiring the locations, budgeting for a new fire station, and the vehicles and the firefighters needed to provide that service should be moving forward pretty rapidly. At least it's not something that can be done overnight, but it needs to be planned, and I'm strongly supporting that we do that. So coordinating with our aircraft response, our neighboring CAFMA organization, making sure that we have sufficient ambulance response, and then coordinating with our healthcare emergency response, even air ambulance service. Those are all things that need to be well coordinated to be able to have the utmost safety. So I think you and I are going to be able to work on these issues in a very supportive way, and I can't tell you how pleased I am to have you leading our department here. So thank you, Chief, and again, welcome to Prescott.
I appreciate it, Mayor. Thank you.